people making a difference. This is COMCAST Newsmakers.
Do you know the history of the Buffalo Soldiers? Well, our next organization is educating people about this historical legend and also spreading good throughout the community. Hello and thanks for joining us. You're watching COMCAST Newsmakers and I'm Linda Kurtz. Joining me in the studio this hour is Tom Costley, and he's the National President of the National Association of Buffalo Soldiers Troopers Motorcycle Club. Today we're talking about the club. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate being here.
Now, how did this motorcycle club get started?
Actually, the first chapter started, Linda, in Chicago in 1993. A police officer there by the name of Ken Thomas started the chapter. And in 1999, there were 6 chapters by that time, and we decided to form a national organization. So we've been together since 1999.
And how many chapters and how many members do you have at this point?
At this point, we have 72 chapters, and that includes 2 chapters in Canada, 1 in Ontario and 1 in Nova Scotia, and 1 in Hawaii, and soon to have a chapter in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay. Now, why do you ride under the name of Buffalo Soldiers?
Well, the Buffalo Soldiers is a part of history, and American history, and I'd like to put emphasis on that. We teach American history, not black history. The Buffalo Soldiers were a part of American history that is not always found in the history books. So our goal is to go into the schools and churches and youth organizations and other organizations in our communities and teach the history of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Can you give us a little bit of the history right now?
Yeah, briefly I can. The Buffalo Soldiers, most people think were part of the Civil War, but actually they came right after the Civil War. So many of the Buffalo Soldiers participated in the Civil War, but they weren't known as Buffalo Soldiers then. Congress passed a law in 1866 allowing blacks for the first time to be a part of a peacetime military. And these individuals were sent out west to help settle the West. And the Cheyenne Indians, as history tells us, named them the Buffalo Soldiers because the hair of the black soldiers reminded them of the hair on the buffaloes, the mane of the buffalo. So they got the name and they stuck with that name.
Okay, so one of the main goals of the organization is to educate youth especially about this history. How did the motorcycles come into the picture?
Well, as funny as it seems, we use our motorcycles as if the Buffalo Soldiers used their horses. So these are our iron horses. They draw a lot of attention, which we want to do. Especially for the children. They're great attention getters.
They sure do.
When we go into the schools and promise them that they can sit on our bikes after our presentations, then they pay attention to what we have to say.
Well, give us more detail about the presentations. What do you do when you go into schools?
We normally take about an hour of the school. We don't like to interrupt their curriculum too much, but we need at least an hour to do our presentations, and we bring in artifacts from the 1800s and pictures of the Buffalo Soldiers and even film sometimes. We have question and answer periods, but most of our time is filled with talking to the students and letting them get a general idea of what the Buffalo Soldiers were about. Many of our kids today haven't seen Westerns on TV now, so they're not familiar with the way our country was in the 18 and early 1900s.
Now, not only do you do school visits, but you do other things throughout the community. You're really involved.
We're totally involved. We work with both Tennessee State University and Alabama State University and helping with their scholarship programs. Soon we will be going to Birmingham, Alabama, and I'll be speaking at the 16th Street Baptist Church there. You know the tragedy there of the 60s where the 4 young girls were killed. Right. We're very involved in our communities. Each chapter has a responsibility of having a charity event every year in their communities to raise money that we give right back to the communities.
Okay, just a short time left, but I know the Buffalo Soldiers are doing something really neat with your wife. What are they doing?
Yes, my wife is the president of Divas for a Cure, which is an organization that raises money for breast cancer research. And so we help her when she rides across country. We escort her through each state.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. We appreciate being here.
I'm Linda Kurtz for COMCAST Newsmakers. Thanks for watching.